what you want to do is look for associations as you go. So you start on one topic, and you might see a little branch pop off to the left when you're talking about shopping addiction, and you might follow that a little bit and then come back to the main topic. So allow yourself to jump from thing to thing, from association to association, and really push yourself to keep going. You'll find that activity kind of forces you to make these conceptual links between words, and that's going to help you down the road. When you're practicing English, you want to make sure you're doing things that aren't going to waste your time, things that actually have an impact. So, I would like to talk through a 2-step exercise you can do using a random word generator. Now, I'm going to explain how it works and why each step is effective, or why each of the pieces actually works. And then we're going to actually do it. We're going to practice it. And then I'm going to challenge you to do the same. Now, what is the issue when it comes to a word that you, and I'm doing air quotes here, know? If you learned it in a list, one of the main issues is that it has no context. It has no association. There are no links between it and other ideas, concepts in your head. Right. And also, when you try to use it, you don't have the feeling for it because you haven't practiced using it much before. Right? Right. So, we have a 2-step process where we can get closer to solving both of these issues. The issues of not having connections between words that we know and other ideas and other words, and the problem of not having the experience or habit to use the words we know in sentences. Okay? So we do association, and then we do improvisation. Okay? Now, first, we need to get a word. Now, a word should be, I think, something that is not super basic, like banana. I mean, it's so easy to use a simple noun, right? But it also should be not too weird and specific that it's hard to associate anything with it, right? So find something that is a little bit challenging, that you know, but that you don't have a lot of experience using, that you feel will be a challenge, a bit of a challenge to talk more about. And again, we'll go through this step by step. So I'm going to go over to randomwordgenerator.com, and I'm not necessarily recommending this specific random word generator. This is just a random word generator, okay? There's nothing special about it. Now, it's interesting because you can choose the number of words. You can say, I want 3 words. I want only adjectives. And the first letter has to start with an E. All right, so then you generate random words. You get earthly, eastern, and ear-splitting. Ear-splitting would be one of those words, I think, that's a little too specific because, number one, it's an adjective, and number two, there aren't that many different ways to use it. It's the same as saying very loud, so it's not a great one. But Eastern might be somewhat okay, and earthy might be somewhat okay. I think it might be better to go with nouns because then we're talking about specific topics, right? And it's a little bit easier to connect your thoughts to specific topics, whether it's a countable noun or an uncountable noun, right? Whether it's a thing, a physical thing we're talking about, or something that's a little more abstract. So examination might be good. Establishment, that one might be too vague because it can be used in a lot of different ways. Let's try again. Let's actually get rid of the E qualification. I don't know why I need to have that. Boyfriend, anxiety, passenger. All right, let's just click through a couple of these and see. Possibility, nature, priority. I like nature. That's a good one. Variety, and by the way, here's the first step of the process. don't push yourself to, oh, I have to go with the first one. Find one that kind of resonates in you, something that kind of clicks for you, and then go with that one, right? There's no rule about, okay, it has to be this word or that word or the first word or whatever. Variety, library, presence. I feel like library is a little too basic. Presence is good. I just want to see some different options here. Idea, sister, height, world, photo, shopping. Actually, let's go with shopping. Not because shopping is a difficult word per se, but because shopping has a lot of ideas and concepts connected to it. So let's try shopping, okay? Remember the ing form, but it'll work. I think it'll work. So let's go over to the blackboard. Now, first I have to sort of explain what we're going to do, then the concept behind it, then we'll practice it, okay? So what we're going to do here is write down our keyword shopping. Nothing particularly special about this word, right? But what I want you to do is try to, as quickly as possible, make associations with this word. Now, if you think about shopping, what things come to mind? For me, more things will probably arrive in my mind than for you if you're an English learner. Why is that? Because as we grow up in a language, we're surrounded by, let's say, things that we have names for. And if that thing has a name and we engage with that thing, we go shopping, we do all kinds of other things that also have names, and those get kind of associated with that thing, and it creates a kind of net or mesh of connected meanings. And as you get better at a language, you get better, your brain gets better at connecting these things together. But when we're learning words, we often don't think about these connections. And that's why when you have that feeling of, I learned these words, but I can't use them when I need them, that's why you have that feeling. So what we do here is we just, as quickly as possible, write down as many associated things as we can. Whether it's a noun or an activity, any kind of word that we feel can in any way be connected with or associated with the concept or the idea of shopping. And I think a visual might help here, so I'll bring this back. But let's imagine that we have here a lake, a beautiful lake, right? And this is something I've talked about before, but bear with me, okay? And here you have a new word that arrives, bloop, and it splashes into your lake. This lake is your entire vocabulary in English. Now you have another lake over here that's way bigger, and that is your vocabulary in your language, which has all of these connections between words, because words represent things and concepts and words, they are linked together, right? By activities that we do, by their context, right? But here's your English one, and the problem is you learn this one and it goes boo, and it sinks to the bottom. And you learn another one, bloop, and it sinks to the bottom. And you learn another one, bloop, and it sinks to the bottom. So now you have a bunch of these isolated words sitting at the bottom of this lake. And now you need to use one of them. So you're asked a question, you're in a conversation, you're in a job interview, you're asked something that requires one of these words. So you need to dive all the way down to the bottom of the lake, grab one of these, and pull it up and use it. And it's this exhausting effort every single time to dive to the bottom of the lake, find the word you need, and pull it back up. By the time you're done with this, you're exhausted, right? Right. So what happens if this is your native language? If it's your native language, something happens. You're asked a question in an interview, whatever it is, some situation arises. And because it has all of these built-in connections or associations with words and their associated objects and concepts, the words that you need in that situation automatically rise to the top. It's as though the situation that you're in, the context that you're in, is like a magnet at the top of the lake, or a net, or whatever analogy you want to use, and it pulls up all the necessary words and idioms and phrases. And when you need to say something, you don't have to dive all the way down to the bottom of the lake and make the effort to pull it up. It's just boom. It is there automatically in your head, and you just speak. And you don't have to think about finding your words. So why is it that that happens in your native language, but not in your second language? Why do you get that frustrating feeling that you're exhausted in finding the words that you need? It's because you haven't practiced enough. You haven't encountered as many situations. You haven't found yourself in enough contexts where you would need to use all of those words. And so the words haven't sort of connected themselves together to a context, to a situation, right? So in order to get that, you need to do a lot more of that. And it's kind of that simple. You need to expose yourself to the English language much more. You need to use it much more. You need to communicate much more. And over time, gradually, you will find when you're in a situation, the words you need just kind of pop up in your head and you don't have to work as hard. And you'll find that these words start to make connections and links together, so that when you bring one of these words up to the surface, you find other words are kind of naturally, I know my drawing is kind of ridiculous here, but naturally connected to that word because they're related in some way and you may need them. And that's kind of how the human brain works. It is like a flashlight in some sense, and it shines itself on the language that you will need in a specific situation. And that's how we get around the problem of words that have more than one meaning. I know what you mean because this word in one context means a very different thing than another context, but we're in this context, so I easily know what it means, right? That's how we get around the problem of knowing 50,000 words but not having to actually search through our brains word by word in order to find them when we need them, right? So I'm not sure if that visual gets the idea across, but that's the kind of thing we're talking about here, right? Access your ability to retrieve words in specific situations. Okay, so we have that idea. Let's get back to shopping. All right, so we have our word shopping. And I want you to, if you want to do this with me right now, do it with me right now. If you want to do it later, you want to find your own word, do it later. That's totally fine. But let's do shopping. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just write down literally anything that pops into my mind. I'm unprepared for this. You saw me use the random word generator. This is unprepared. It should be, right? Just whatever pops into your head. Here we go. Retail, sales, cheap, luxury, jealousy, holiday, ATM, credit, convenience, warmth, friendship, fun, debt, let's say greed, FOMO, attendant, desk, discount, download, addiction. And let's go with one more. Let's say swipe. Okay, SWIPE. Okay. I didn't know what I was going to write down before I did it, but this is what I came up with as quickly as I could. I wasn't really thinking too deeply, just word association. What it shows me is the breadth of how I think about things. If I think of the word shopping, am I thinking of the same kind of things? Very narrow. Shopping. Okay, store, attendant, clerk, credit card, shoes, window. I'm thinking maybe of specifically one shop and just picturing those things. Well, that's fine. I could do that. But what I would like to do is be able to make all kinds of even abstract connections to shopping. So I might think about the very physical things. And the first thing you can do is kind of picture it, right? Like, okay, I'm shopping. What do I see? And that would be a very basic way to start. Well, okay, I see an attendant and I see a desk and I see myself swiping a credit card or going to the ATM to get cash. And let's see, that's about it. But I want to change tracks then. I want to be a little bit more abstract. I want to talk about the idea of shopping. Okay, well, that's usually related to retail. People may buy luxury things or cheap things. People may get addicted to it. They may get into serious debt. Okay, now I want to maybe talk about things that people associate emotionally to shopping, how people orient themselves to shopping. Well, people say it's fun. It's a great activity for friends to do together, right? They might do it during the holidays. Black Friday is coming up, right? Maybe they get, which one of a friend's one? Maybe they see a friend that has something and they want it. My friend has it, I don't have it, so they get a feeling of FOMO or fear of missing out, right? Warmth, maybe you get during the holiday season. I don't know what I was thinking when I wrote warmth, but maybe the Christmas time, the warmth of the holiday season, or maybe it's just your safe thing that makes you feel warm and safe. I have no idea what I was thinking when I wrote down warmth. So jealousy, I'm jealous of my friend's new BMW, for example, or I got a great discount during Black Friday. Again, I'm just word associating here. Okay, so that's the first step, and you can keep going with that. And what you find is it really pushes yourself to make these connections and think in slightly different ways about the words you know, to think more narrowly in terms of what happens when I do that activity, and to think more broadly in terms of what are the effects of that activity, or what are the things I personally associate with that activity, or what are the things that culturally it means, sort of, what are the cultural connections that are somehow related to that activity, right? For example, if I say addiction, maybe it's because I know that a lot of people suffer from online shopping addiction. They just buy stuff and then they max out their credit cards, and it's a big problem, and then they get into debt. Well, that's not true everywhere. That happens to be true in the United States where I live, so that's a natural association that I make, but it might be different for you. So this is very personal, and it's not, you don't want to be too strict about it. Not everything has to make sense. I honestly still cannot figure out why I decided to write down warmth. For some reason I did. But, all kinds of different things. I think there's a pretty good distribution of concepts here. A few actions, which is nice. I didn't know I was going to write down actions, but I've got swipe here, like swipe a credit card. And I have another one. Discount could be an action to discount something, or it could be a noun. It depends on how you use it. And I guess that's it. Some adjectives. Convenience, I guess that's a noun. Convenience would be the adjective. And cheap and luxury. Luxurious would be the adjective. Luxury is the noun. Okay, so anyway, we've got some things. Now what should we do? What's the next step in the process? Now you do improvisation. So improvisation is when you speak without a clear plan about what you're going to speak about, right? And there you're also forcing yourself to keep going, find new connections between things. When you're talking, it's not about how correct you are. It's not about being perfect, right? It's about keep pushing yourself to just try to say more things. What you want to do is look for associations as you go. So you start on one topic, and you might see a little branch pop off to the left when you're talking about shopping addiction, and you might follow that a little bit and then come back to the main topic. So allow yourself to jump from thing to thing, from association to association, and really push yourself to keep going. You'll find that activity kind of forces you to make these conceptual links between words, and that's going to help you down the road. When you find yourself in these contexts, those words are going to more easily come to mind when you're speaking, when you're trying to answer a question, when you're in a conversation. All right? So let's give it a try. Now, I could, if I wanted to, I could use Otter, which is a good recording tool, but I think I'm just going to use my phone here. Excuse me while I scratch my nose. I'm just going to use my phone here. I'm going to pull up my voice record app on my phone. Where is my voice record app? I don't often use the feature on my phone. I usually use my computer to record. I know I'm recording right now because you're watching this, but I want to just simulate the feeling of it. It's important to record yourself so that you listen back and think about what you could improve upon. Voice, what the heck should I search? Okay, voice memos. There we go. Voice memos. It's my first time using it since 2019. What the heck? Okay. So we hit record and you just go. You've got your main topic. If you want to look on the paper that you've written the words down, or the screen, wherever you have them, and you want to use some of them, you can. But don't give yourself too much pressure. This is not meant to be pressure. This is meant to be improvisation to get you to make those connections as you're speaking. Okay, here we go. I am not a huge fan of shopping for fun, although I know a lot of people like to do it. And I think the main reason for that is that I'm kind of a minimalist in what I want to own or have. And shopping, I think, can hack the brain to make you in the moment think that you want something that you don't actually want or need. When you're in a shop, the things in the shop say, hey, buy me. And for some people who don't have a lot of self-control, that can lead to shopping addiction, especially if they have access to a large credit limit. Whether they're shopping in stores or online, it's very easy to get hooked on just seeing something you want and buying it immediately. I tend not to do that. I tend to use what I need as my kind of guiding star for what I will or will not buy. I'll say to myself, I need a new camera. And then my next question will be, I have $800 to spend on this camera. And then my next step will be, all right, let me now find a product that fits my criteria. Right? So it's not about fun. It's about, first, I need something. Then how much am I willing to spend on the thing? And then now let's find it. Then I get to have fun. Then I get to enjoy myself in the process of researching the products, watching online reviews, reading about it, which one is better, doing comparisons, asking people I know. This process is fun. So I feel like it's the best of both worlds. I get to avoid the problem of shopping addiction, feeling jealous about what other people have, or feeling like I just need luxury stuff. And instead, I can spend responsibly, but I still get the fun of looking for things to buy when I do need something, because I get to research, I get to read reviews, and so on. And so that's what I think would be a good approach for someone who's struggling from either shopping addiction or has found themselves in debt because they use their credit cards too much. Change your way of thinking. When you're in a shop, tell yourself immediately, don't buy anything. Unless you go into the shop, before you go in, you tell yourself, I need 3 things. These are things I need. And when you go in, you will now have goggles on for only the things that you need. And you can still enjoy yourself in that process. This actually works. I think it's a very effective way to prevent yourself from overspending. And I would be curious to know if others have other strategies for shopping or spending money responsibly. Now, I could keep going if I wanted to. I could talk. Already gone for 3 minutes, so that's enough. If you want to go for 5 minutes, if you want to go for whatever, it doesn't matter. At least 3, I think, is good. You want to really talk a bit, and then you want to listen back to it and ask yourself, okay, what could I do differently to make it more clear? What could I do better? If I were going to keep talking, the next thing I was going to talk about was Black Friday, which is coming up. So these seasonal holidays and how they create a sort of frenzy, but also how you can get amazing deals during this time, and the psychology that people have of, oh, during this time I can get good stuff. Ooh, nice, right? Okay, so let's listen to it. And if you don't like hearing your voice, don't worry about it, right? You'll get used to it. Just push through that. You'll be fine. Although I know a lot of people like to do it. I think the main reason for that is that I'm kind of a minimalist.
What an idiot.
What I want to own or have. And shopping, I think, can hack the brain to make you in the moment think that you want something that you don't actually want or need. I think I could have been a little more precise there, but overall I think I presented my premise well, the basic point well. And I don't even think you need to have a specific structure. The key is not, again, organizing things. This activity is not about building an outline. It's not about structuring things for a presentation. It's all about how you can push through not knowing what to say and find things to say as you're saying them. And again, making those connections between words. So we have a couple of things we can do. Number 1, we find a new word, or it doesn't have to be a new word. We find a word that will work well for this sort of thing. Then we do word association to create connections between words, specifically and abstract connections. There's really no criteria or requirement for what is a connection and what's not. You write down as many as you can for a couple minutes. Then you do improvisation and record yourself speaking about that word abstractly. You can approach it from many different angles. I talked about my spending habits in regards to shopping. You can do whatever you want. Again, the activity is forcing you to think on your feet and make connections between words and concepts. That is my challenge for you, to do it once. If you want to share it, you can put that in the Discord group, which you can join for free. That's in the challenge submission part. If you want to put it there, you're welcome to do so. Or if you want to share a link, you can put that in the comments, or just let me know how it went. Put in the comments how this activity worked or went for you. I'm very curious to hear how you feel about it and your feedback. This has worked for a lot of students that I've worked with, but I would really love to hear how you feel about it once you try out this activity.